Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. It feels like we've been away from the Queen Mother for a little while, so I'm excited to get back into her world. In our last episode, we had the palace announce the engagement of Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip. The press was excited and tried to get as many stories out of it as they could. So let's see what's going on today. The king decided to invest the princess with the Order of the Garter on November 11th, and he did the same for Prince Philip on November 19th, so the princess would be senior to her husband in the order. His future son-in-law would be created a Royal Highness, and the titles of his peerage would be the Duke of Edinburgh, the Earl of Merioneth, and Baron of Greenwich. The king told his mother that he knew this was a lot to take on all at once, but I know Philip understands his new responsibilities on his marriage to Lilibet. More than 3,000 presents came in from all over the world. They were unpacked and put on display by men from the Grenadier Guards and catalogued by Beryl Poignan. There was a question of what allowance the princess and her new husband should receive from the civil list to cover the official expenses of their households, and it was a problem. The king asked for £50,000 for the couple. He found the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Hugh Dalton, difficult on the matter. Dalton suggested £30,000, some of which would be taxable. November 13th, Dalton had to resign after revealing details of his new budget to a journalist just before he informed the House of Commons itself. The new Chancellor, Stafford Cripps, accepted the royal request for £50,000. Among the celebrations, the King and Queen gave a dance at the palace on the evening of November 18th. Duff Cooper, now ambassador to France, and Lady Diana came on the Golden Arrow from Paris. They talked to the king and queen, and Duff recorded in his diary, "She has grown very large, but she looked queenly and was very well dressed. They were both very friendly. The king was the most outspoken, first aside to me and then aside to Diana in his criticism of his ministers. Princess Elizabeth was looking really charming, everything that a princess in a fairy tale ought to look like on the eve of her wedding." And 2 days later, on November 20th, the wedding took place in Westminster Abbey. It was an emotional day for the whole family. When the princess and her husband left by carriage from the palace for their honeymoon, she was concerned that she had not said her proper goodbyes. She wrote to her mother, "My mouth, my eyes, everything was jammed with rose petals, and it felt as if I might cry if there was any more delay." The first part of the honeymoon was spent at Broadlands, the Mountbatten home in Hampshire. While there, the princess received a loving letter from her father. "I was so proud of you and thrilled at having you so close to me on our long walk in Westminster Abbey," he wrote. "But when I handed your hand to the Archbishop, I felt I had lost something very precious. You were so calm and composed during the service, and you said your words with such conviction that I knew everything was all right." He was relieved that she had told her mother that the delay they had imposed on her engagement and marriage was for the best. "I was rather afraid you had thought that I was being hard-hearted about it. I was so anxious for you to come to South Africa. As you knew, our family, us four, the royal family, must remain together, with additions, of course, at suitable moments. I have watched you grow up all these years with pride under the skillful direction of Mummy, who, as you know, is the most marvelous person in the world in my eyes, and I know, always count on you, and now Philip, to help us out in our work. Your leaving us has left a great blank in our lives, but do remember that your old home is still yours, and do come back to it as much and as often as possible. I can see that you are sublimely happy with Philip, which is right, but don't forget us is the wish of your ever-loving and devoted Papa." From the Broadlands, the princess wrote equally loving letters to her parents. To her mother she said, "Darling Mummy, I don't know where to begin this letter or what to say, but I know I must write it somehow, as I feel so much about it. First of all, to say thank you. I tried to say the other evening how much I appreciated all you've done for me, but somehow it wouldn't come. It's been such fun being together, all four of us, and I hope that we shall have just as much fun now that you got a son-in-law." She hoped her mother had not been too miserable at the wedding. "I was so happy and enjoying myself so much that I became completely selfish and forgot about your feelings or anyone else." She thought her mother looked wonderful, not just the bride's mother, but you in the middle of all the fuss and bustle. You were as helpful and wonderful as ever. I do hope this doesn't sound sentimental, because it isn't meant to be, just the truth. I think I've got the best mother and father in the world, and I only hope that I can bring up my children in the happy atmosphere of love and fairness which Margaret and I have grown up in. I feel it will be easier for me with such a vivid example and personal experience to guide me." The princess went on to say that she and Prince Philip felt completely at ease together. "We behaved as though we belonged to each other for years. Philip is an angel. He's so kind and thoughtful, and living with him and having him around all the time is just perfect." The queen loved this letter and reread it many times. She told the princess, "Each time I feel more thankful for our darling little daughter." She assured the princess that her parents were so happy in her happiness. They always hoped she would make a marriage of both the heart and the head, and the queen added, "We both love Philip already as a son." She also said she looked forward to having just as much fun as before, now that we four have become we five. The queen told Princess Elizabeth she had thought of her for nearly every minute since she had driven away. She wrote, "Darling Lilibet, no parent has ever had a better daughter. You were always such an unselfish and thoughtful angel to Papa and me, and we're so thankful for all your goodness and sweetness. That you and Philip should be blissfully happy and love each other through good days and bad or depressing days is my one wish. 1,000 blessings to you both from your very, very loving Mummy." Well, next we have the couple. They went from Hampshire and with their corgis to Birk Hall. The princess was used to the highlands in the summer, so she found November corridors cold and drafty, but the rooms were warmed by large log fires. The princess started to realize what terrific changes marriage brought to life. She wanted her mother's advice on how to get her husband to deal with the formalities of court. Princess Elizabeth said Prince Philip was terribly independent, and I quite understand the poor darling wanting to start off properly without everything being done for us. She hoped to have Philip boss of his own home. She knew how difficult it would be living in her old rooms at Buckingham Palace and subject to endless protocol. She was right. It was hard for the prince to be his own man. Prince Philip thought that some of the courtiers were overly conservative and stuffy, and they found him abrasive and were unsympathetic. It was important for him to maintain his independence and authority over the years ahead. The princess ended her letter by writing, "It is so lovely and peaceful right now. Philip is reading full length on the sofa. Susan is stretched out before the fire. Rummy is fast asleep in his box beside the fire, and I'm busy writing this one in the armchairs near the fire. You see how important the fire is. It is heaven up here." The new Duke of Edinburgh wrote his mother-in-law, and he said, "Lilibet is the only thing in the world which is absolutely real to me, and my ambition is to weld the two of us into a new combined existence that will not only be able to withstand the shocks directed at us, but will also have a positive existence for the good. Cherish Lilibet? I wonder if that word is enough to express what is in me. Does one cherish one's sense of humor, or one's musical ear, or one's eyes? I'm not sure. But I know that I thank God for them, and so very humbly I thank God for Lilibet and for us." The next great family celebration was the King and Queen's silver wedding anniversary. It was an important and emotional moment for both of them and for the country. The marriage in which the Lady Elizabeth Bowles-Lyon had hesitated so long had been a triumph. Both had brought a love, support, and happiness to each other. Their happy life together with their daughters had given great joy and a sense of confidence in the monarchy, particularly during the war. The family's happiness itself was an object of national celebration. They celebrated on April 26, 1948. That morning they had a Holy Communion at the palace, then drove with Princess Margaret in an open landau to St. Paul's Cathedral. Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip followed in a second open carriage. It was a beautiful spring day, and the streets were lined with troops and filled with huge crowds cheering in the sunshine. That afternoon after the service, they drove in an open car 22 miles through the London streets and they were greeted by enthusiastic crowds. Back at the palace, they appeared several times on the balcony to acknowledge the cheering people in the mall, and that evening they both broadcast to the nation. The king said it was unforgettable to realize how many thousands of people wished to join in the thankfulness we feel for 25 years of supremely happy married life, which has been granted to us. The queen spoke clearly from the heart. The world of our day is longing to find the secret of community, and all our married lives are, in a sense, communities in miniature. She remembered her parents and her own happy childhood. The queen said, "I realize more and more the wonderful sense of security and happiness that comes from a loved home. Therefore, at this time, my heart goes out to all those who are living in uncongenial surroundings and who are longing for the time when they will have a home of their own. So I will end the video here. In this episode, we have the marriage of Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip. The king and queen were sad to lose a daughter that they loved so dearly, but they were happy that she found the right man, and they loved him too. It was also the celebration of the king and queen's 25th wedding anniversary. The queen had been hesitant to marry the king. She turned him down numerous times, but she finally relented, and she and the king made the perfect couple and the perfect team. They had the love of the people who felt more secure seeing their happiness together, especially during the terrible war years. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, if you could give it a thumbs up, it will help my channel to be more successful. And I appreciate all the viewers and comments. As I've said before, I created a list of merchandise from Amazon that I thought you might be interested in. If you click on the link, it takes you to the Amazon page, and if you purchase it, I get a small commission that is no extra cost to you. But more importantly, I wish everyone a good day, and tune in again soon for another episode of Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Thank you. Bye.